When many cynical, jaded, 30+ people like myself are asked, why do codexes need to exist? They'll give you the answer, because Games Workshop makes a bigger profit margin on them than they do even on their models. While this may be true, Games Workshop making a better profit and hobbyists having a better experience are not necessarily mutually exclusive. For an example of this, let's look at the background information, lovingly referred to as fluff in the community, in order to see how it benefits both the hobbyist and Games Workshop. From a hobbyist perspective, this exists as an exciting way of understanding your faction, where have they come from, what drives them, and how do they like to wage warfare. As a Blood Angels player, getting to know all about the death of Sanguinius, the Black Rage, the Red Thirst, Chapter Master Dante, Chief Librarian Mephiston, the Lord of Death, and all the other amazing things that come along with being a Blood Angel gives me some real context to the little red models that I'm putting on the tabletop and really makes them come alive in the universe that I'm trying to play in. Now this is also great for Games Workshop to get hobbyists like me invested, because when you're that invested, you're likely to do things like kit bashes or just buy more models because you want to make the coolest, most awesome army. Particularly in the case of kit bashes, if Games Workshop can sell you 2 kits that you bash together, that's twice as much profit for them. All it takes is the inspiration provided by these codexes in order to get a whole new wave of hobbyists involved with their favourite factions. Now this fluff used to be a really exciting reason for getting these codexes, so that people can learn all about their faction and where they sit in the universe of 40k at the moment. But with the release of the recent Space Marines and Tyranids codexes, it looks like there's a lot of recycled content. If the lore and fluff is recycled from 9th edition, what exactly is tempting me to buy the new version of the book? Particularly at a £35 price tag. Okay, so maybe fluff isn't your thing. The reason why people are mostly getting the codexes is for, let's be honest here, most people are buying these books so that they can play their favourite factions. Whether that be the 7-foot-tall superhuman child soldiers, the apocalyptic space locusts, or the skeletal techno-royalists who seem rather upset that people keep treading on them. All the datasheets laid out in their, granted, much superior 10th edition formatting, and all the new detachments you'll need for playing various shooty, fighty, and vehicular armies of all kinds. But here's the snag. If you're buying the codex for the rules, when are you actually ever using a codex in your games? For anyone like me who's attempted to actually play a game of 40k using a codex, you'll realise that there is a better solution, and the worst thing is it's something that Games Workshop have already done themselves. This is why the announcement of the Warhammer 40k app was such a step in the right direction. During the Index Age, when Warhammer 40k 10th edition first came along, being able to see everybody's army, stratagems, detachments, and datasheets was a massive benefit to the game at all levels. From a competitive standpoint, you are more able to preempt what your opponent might do and make countermeasures in order to strategically outmatch them. From a more casual perspective, if you were having a game with your mates who weren't as au fait with the rules, you could help them along and guide them with things like strength and toughness values. Making the rules free and available to everybody was only a good thing. However, during the age of codices, yes, that is the plural, I don't care if Games Workshop says it's codexes, this makes the most valuable part of that shiny new book you've just got the code on the back cover that gives you access to those rules in the Warhammer 40k app. This also leads to the absurd situation of people selling off a brand new codex with things like the words code used in brackets. Shifting these books tends to be really difficult for those people because nobody wants a codex without the code. And something about the wastefulness of that really rubs me up the wrong way. Now, if you want to play against a lot of different armies and kind of understand what your opponents are doing, are we expected to buy their codexes, scan the code into our Warhammer 40k app, and then discard the carcass of this brand new codex? This only encourages the use of free resources like Battlescribe or Wahapedia, leading people away from the official Games Workshop sources. Having everything be free in the Warhammer 40k app would allow people to ogle at all the lovely datasheets and painted models and, the really slick interface that Games Workshop has provided, and get inspired to start that new force. And Games Workshop is throwing it away for the sake of making a few quid on books that will become obsolete in an edition's time, with editions becoming shorter and shorter in lifespan. Not only that, but the books are almost certainly out of date on release, with balance patches a la video games causing everything to change on day one or even before. We saw with the end of 9th edition and the Votan Codex that none of the points values that were in there made any sense by the time the book actually came out. But Ollie, I hear you cry. I don't care about that. I want to invest in a codex so I can see all the lovely artwork. And I think this for me is the saddest part, because the early hand-drawn works of artists like John Blanche or Jeff Taylor inspired a whole generation of kids like me to get into Warhammer. Granted, a lot later in life, but those were the iconic images that have shaped and forged this universe over the last 40 years. The switch to digital art that has been prevalent since I came back into the hobby back in 8th edition was almost certain to come, and I do think there is something lost between going from hand-drawn to digital, but that's not the main problem. There can still be some amazing pieces of digital art. The problem comes from the fact that so many assets are being reused from one codex to the other. I mean, going so far as to use the same cover on the new codexes for Space Marines and Tyranids, which I think is a bit of a slap in the face to anybody who's thinking of spending £35 on a new book. If you're Games Workshop, just pay an artist a few quid to whip you up a new picture to put on the front of your codex. It's lazy, and it's frankly unacceptable to just reprint the same art again and expect people to just get on with it. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a very easy fix, in my opinion, for Games Workshop. You have the Warhammer app. It's a wonderful delivery mechanism for all the rules, up-to-date points values, any errata and FAQs. It's purpose-built for that, and I think it's an amazing resource. It's really well done. People who want to turn up to tournaments with a new army every week will be able to download the app, and then they'll be able to show up and spend loads of money in your stores in order to get that new army painted up and on the battlefield as quickly as possible. But for the hobbyists, the vast majority in terms of numbers of people who get engaged with Warhammer, those are people who play a little bit at their local club or play with a friend or a brother or sister. For those people, give them a book that is the equivalent of them peering at their favourite faction through the window of their local hobby shop. Give them hand-drawn illustrations like in the 2nd edition War Gear book that inspired me to, all these years later, come back to Warhammer. Change codexes from the rules delivery mechanisms we have come to expect and turn them into a lore injection, an art extravaganza, an inspiration overload. Remember that the success of your game is not just based on how many models you can sell because of the latest meta watch, but on the craftsmanship and artistry of thousands and thousands of dedicated hobbyists. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you guys think on this topic in the comments down below. Am I completely wrong? Are new codexes better than the old ones in every single way? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until the next one, my name has been Ollie, this has been my hobby, and I'll see you next time.